Oklahoma was settled at the sound of a gun, 7 times from 1889 to 1895. The guns, of course, predated settlement by decades, arriving with the U.S. Army before the 1820s. Used as tools and weapons, used by cowboys and Indians, outlaws and lawmen, soldiers and homesteaders, Oklahomans have a nearly 200-year history with firearms, and our interest shows no sign of slacking.
Out here in Oklahoma, you can go to Walmart and buy things that would get you sent to California prison for about 20 years. It's amazing. You know, there's that much more openness as far as the culture goes.
There are the hunting side of this picture, and that too has all kinds of divisions within hunting. Obviously there's a Self-Defense Act, and then there's just those who like to collect, you know, because gun collecting can be one of the few hobbies that actually pays for itself pretty well.
On this edition of Stateline, Oklahomans' fascination with their shooting iron.
Guns have always been a part of Oklahoma. When it was called Indian Territory, lawmen like Bill Tillman went after well-armed outlaws with firepower of their own. During the Depression, desperate criminals like Dillinger, Pretty Boy Floyd, and Bonnie and Clyde robbed banks, killed police, and died in a hail of bullets. Criminals continue to use guns. The morning headlines tell their tale. What you don't hear about much are the hundreds of thousands of Oklahomans who legally collect guns, practice shooting their guns, and responsibly carry their weapons with them every day. They are Oklahoma's gun culture.
I started out with a 1,000 shot repeater Red Ryder BB gun. And if you've seen the Christmas Story, you saw me in that Christmas Story.
Oh no! She's advised the gin is
I was that same age, and I got a BB gun probably when I was 11 years old. But before that, I enjoyed the cap pistols and the other type of, toy guns and things.
Adios, Bart! But if you do come back, you'll be pushing up daisies.
I bought my first gun in Oklahoma City at a store called OETA-The. That was Oklahoma Tire and Supply. They were long gone. And I'm 14 years old, and I go in and buy a semi-automatic .22 rifle. Now, I didn't have parents with me, nothing. I was able to just go in and buy a .22 rifle. I'm mowing lawns and earn money and put it on layaway, and we'd go in, and once a week I'd pay $1 on it. And finally, I got it paid off.
For some, it's more than just a passion for shooting. Robert and Christy Duncan fell in love on the firing range.
And that was actually our first date.
It was. Her father and I were partners on the Sheriff's Department when I got started, and Christy had never been shooting, and her dad had a fun experience teaching her how to drive and wasn't about to do that with a loaded gun. So he asked me if I would go ahead and teach her to shoot, and we went on our first date together, shooting.
Yeah, and definitely builds your trust for one another.
We were reading a New York Times article that gun places are an interesting first date night for a lot of people, and a lot of the kind of awkwardness of it goes away very, very quickly when you're learning how to shoot. It gives you some.
You adjusting my hips.
Yeah, it gives you something to focus on. It's something that you can teach somebody. It makes it a lot easier than just trying to sit around at the movie and have a bowl of popcorn or something.
Leroy, who asked us not to use his last name, has turned his love of firearms into a sizable collection.
Probably people around outside of Oklahoma would say, boy, there's a gun nut. Owns all these guns. Well, you know, why does he own all these guns? My wife used to ask me that occasionally too. So, but if you don't understand hunting, don't understand guns, when my boys and I would go quail hunting, we'd take a shotgun, of course, and for the two of us, my two boys and me, that's 3 guns. And then if you're going somewhere to hunt, I always tried to carry a spare gun, so if a gun, something happened to it, you would still, the 3 of us, be able to hunt. So that's 4 guns. Now, if you're going to hunt ducks and geese, that takes a different shotgun. So that's 4 more guns. And we also hunted deer. Well, that's 4 more guns. So as you can see, a person who does quite a bit of hunting and hunts around different things, they own a lot of guns. And its gun is made for a purpose. And just like you can't buy, if you went out and bought a Corvette and you needed a pickup, it wouldn't work very well.
So does having a collection make you a collector?
I say I'm not. My wife says I am, and so it all depends. I think they're all necessary. Don't you think so? But I do have some guns I've never shot, so I guess that makes me a collector. And just some guns are kind of unique and things and attract my attention, and as such, I, enjoy them. And I've never bought a gun that I thought I'd buy this for a profit. Some of the guns I own strictly for hand-me-down guns to my sons.
Along with the guns, Leon is passing on his passion to his children and grandchildren.
All my grandkids have shot, all except one, and she's only 2.5 years old. But all the rest of them have shot. My kids started shooting at age about 3.5, 4. Very controlled. You teach them what a gun is, how it works, and when you go out to shoot, they go out with you. When nothing else makes sense, you can go out with your gun out in the woods into the wilderness, and everything out there seems to make sense and work. I enjoy the wildlife, I enjoy the outdoors, and I enjoy the guns, and that just puts it all together.
It wasn't long before Robert and Christy put it all together and turned that first date on the firing range into a walk down the aisle.
Right after we got married, we got our concealed carry permits, which he didn't really need one, being a reserve deputy, but I did. And I really wanted one in case we were out somewhere, and it's a way for me to protect my family. If anything ever happened.
And about 4 months after that, we found out that we were going to have a daughter, Ryan, and that's when we really decided that it would be a good idea to start taking shooting more seriously as a way of protecting ourselves and her.
So now I feel more confident when I go out, late at night with her just to get milk and bread at the store like every other mom, or you hear about people that get attacked in parking lots, Christmas shopping, and I don't really worry about that now. It's kind of just something I take along with me, just like I put on my shoes every day, I don't think about it.
We used to go all the time together, but now we have a little one. We have to take turns so that one of us can watch her.
I thought that I would be a little bit more scared, just because I didn't really have the knowledge of firearms like he did. But I was really actually surprised at the different feel of the different guns. I mean, it was a lot more different than I thought it was going to be, and it ended up being a sport that I love.
Usually after the first shot, the recoil, I have to get used to that too, and just kind of focus on how to breathe and where to shoot, and that's how I do it.
After a long day, target practice can be a stress reliever.
it works out pretty easily into the schedule because it's not like a game of golf where you're sitting there all day and you have to have a certain tee time. You can kind of come in and go for about 20 minutes or so and have a nice break in the middle of the day. Usually we'll try to go on weekends if we can. It gives our parents a nice time to spend with our daughter and gives us a chance to go out on a little date night too at the same time. If you're just going target shooting, it's really inexpensive. I think you would probably spend about maybe $10 for your range fees and about maybe $10 on ammunition. I'm terrible at skiing and golfing and everything else, so I might as well have one sport that I'm good at. How do you think I did? I think it's a good way to keep proficient for work, and it's a good way to protect our family, but it's also something that we can enjoy doing together and something that we can introduce to our daughter later.
I would much rather my child understand and know about guns from Rob and I than on TV.
The Duncans are just one of many families spending more time shooting together at places like the H&H Gun Range owned by Miles Hall.
The gun community as a whole is really big. I don't think people realize just how incredibly large it was. I know I didn't. Anyway, when we first got started, we just wanted to build a decent range and have a place to go and shoot for that kind of crowd. We didn't even own a gun. We owned one gun. At the time when we started the range in 1981, we owned a gun, one. Now keep in mind, we were a gun range first. I just wanted to be a very good range. That's right. We wanted to teach people how to be safe, and we wanted to have a place to go and shoot that didn't shoot back. It was pretty simple in the beginning. We got into retail sales a little over a decade ago, and on a serious level anyway, a little over a decade. We finally just hit our stride just within the last few years.
Business is better than it's ever been, and Hall has noticed a change in his customers lately.
What we see today, of course, are a whole lot younger people, and they look at things more educatedly. That's probably the best way to phrase it. They come in already knowing a fair amount, and then they come in and say, teach me. Tell me what I need to know, So it's not like they just rush in and say, I need to buy a gun, sell me anything. They come in and say, no, I'm looking for this purpose. What are your thoughts? And so they're more educated than in past, at least from what we had seen anyway. We did a demographical view of our average consumer that we had, and most are married, most have children, most have some college. I can tell you, I work with so many different people over the years, but I get such a kick out of first-time shooters. When they come out and they're nervous, you can tell they're tense, they got all the anxiety that gears up, and then they fire their first time, and then it's like, oh my gosh, I get it. Now, leave me alone, I gotta shoot. You gotta love that. You gotta love that enthusiasm that they suddenly bring into it.
That enthusiasm often results in a gun purchase, but not before filling out a pile of paperwork. And the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms keeps track of it all.
To buy a gun, you have to go through so much. It actually consists of 7 sheets of paper now we turn in with every gun sale into the bookkeeping part of the office. Now, so when you go to buy a gun, you have to be a resident of the state of Oklahoma. You have to be a proper age, which in the case of a handgun is 21. We take your information and put it on a form you fill out answering a gob of questions.
Dealers then pick up the phone and call the National Instant Check System. The FBI checks the buyer's background for criminal convictions.
And then we get either a proceed, meaning that the guest can take the gun with them, a delay, meaning that they've got to get more information, or a denial. In all the years I've been doing this, we've received very few denials, because bad guys don't go to gun stores to buy guns. I believe, and all dealers that I know, all the dealers I know from around the country, they want to make sure that the guns they're selling are not getting in the hands of bad people, okay? You can do that on a single sheet of paper and a single phone call. In fact, you don't even need the phone call anymore. In this age of computers, we ought to be able to put in what we need and be able to say, yes, you're okay, no, you're not. Simple. Now, that's what I would like to see.
After buying a gun, lots of people like to carry it with them. To do that, they must have a concealed weapon license.
The calendar year 1996 was the first that we started issuing licenses to the actual applicants. And in that year is 15,081. The following year, it dropped down to just a little over 5,000. The year after that, it dropped down to just a little over 4,000. As of June 30th of 2008, which was the end of our fiscal year, there were 65,504 people licensed in Oklahoma to carry a concealed firearm.
Oklahoma is one of 39 shall-issue states that grant permits after meeting certain requirements.
Number one, they have to be a U.S. Citizen. They have to be an Oklahoma resident. They have to be 21 years of age. They have to take a safety and firearms course. They have to fill out the paperwork, submit the money, and do it all in good faith.
Mike Friend is a permit holder, even though his company in Wyandotte, Oklahoma, makes guns that are a little hard to conceal.
This is an AK-74 rifle built on our milled MLS 99 receiver. This rifle is 5.45 by 39 caliber. We'll show you it's very mild as far as the kick, and the muzzle brake works very well on this with this here caliber, and I'll show you a little bit about what it'll do.
Turns out, a lot of machine gun owners wanted a place to shoot nearby. 8 years ago, Friend held the first Oklahoma full auto shoot and trade show, where for 2 days in early June, shooters can open up and go full auto to their heart's content.
When you get there and you come through the front gate, you see all these people lined up on the machine gun line. They're all having fun shooting guns, you know, and they're shooting at everything, you know. They're shooting at old cars, they're shooting at refrigerators, they're shooting at freezers, they're shooting at stoves, cement blocks. I mean, they're shooting at everything.
Every year, the crowd gets a little bigger.
We'll have somewhere between 1,000 and 1,500 spectators that show up, and probably I'll say at least half of the people that come in will probably be family. Yeah, they may just be a father, son, or it might be, and sometimes they'll have mom, dad, the kids, everybody, you know. Stuff like this intrigues people. Well, you know, dad was in the war, or he was in the Army, and, you know, he's told his son, you know, stories about, you know, what the gun feels like to shoot, and you really can't grasp that unless you physically shot it. And once you've shot it, then you're kind of on the same page, you know, you really know what he was talking about then. You have somewhere between probably 250 and 300 shooters that'll show up. You have bankers, the lawyers, the doctors, all those kind of people show up. You also have people that are just in a normal profession. You know, they may be mechanics, they may be, you know, individual business owners, maybe whatever, and just everybody. It's a blast. It's a blast. Just the feel of the gun. I mean, a lot of people will shoot a semi-auto version, and that's a blast to them. There's something about the noise that the gun makes when it's in full auto, and the shake of the gun. It's just a total different feeling.
On Sunday morning, the shooting stops and the crowds go home, leaving behind memories and a pile of empty shells.
The only thing you see really is a bunch of smiles, and you get pats on the back and say, man, that was great. I'll be back next year. They're very glad that we're doing this because they can't just go anywhere to do that. I enjoy seeing the people, you know, having fun. I'll probably be doing it until I'm too old to be doing it because I love it.
For Will Massad, hunting is his first love.
Well, the process for dove hunting is to find either a wheat field or some kind of feed field, sunflowers in particular. If you don't have that at the time, my favorite thing to do as the sun's going down is to hunt at a water hole, which is what we're going to do here.
Whenever he gets the chance, Will takes off for his favorite spot to hunt, something he's been doing since he was a boy hunting with his father.
Big tradition, and it's mostly just about getting out, sitting, leave the office behind, leave the everyday clutter behind, and just sitting and take it all in. The reward of the hunt is secondary to me. Getting out there and being a part of being outside, and that's the first reward. You've got migratory game bird season, which is dove hunting and waterfowl hunting, duck or goose, and we do both quite heavily. And the quail hunting, which is an upland bird, a non-migratory game bird, is that's my first love, and that's the one thing that we look forward the most in my family is November through February. Then of course for deer, you've got archery season, muzzleloader season, and then rifle season. Turkey season then in the springtime, and that's always a good time. And then when it gets too hot, we just get out the fishing poles and wait till next season.
There's even a sense of tradition in the guns he chooses to take.
Well, I like the Browning because this is what I was raised on, and there's a lot of people in the state of Oklahoma and the Midwest that'll tell you this, with a little bit of argument, possibly could be the best upland gun made. Well, it's not made anymore, but a favorite among the upland hunters. I've got friends that are just absolute diehard, do everything with bow, and more power to them. I like to hear the report of a gun go off. I hand load, so we like to hand load our own ammo, which can be more accurate than buying factory stuff, although the factory stuff nowadays is pretty darn good. One of my favorite stories is when I took my kids for the first time. My three children, my daughter's the oldest, and then my two boys, and they wanted to play in some dirt, and my daughter, with the bird dogs that we have, are kind of like her adopted children. And so to see them in action trying to find quail, and then once they find quail, point the quail, we shoot the quail, and they retrieve the quail, that is my daughter's favorite thing. And my sons might be off playing in a sand pile or a dirt pile somewhere, and she'll get aggravated with them because they just missed her babies in action. When we were finished at the end of the day, my daughter said, "Well, that's it. This is not for boys." I said, "Well, okay, you're going to be my little hunter, then I'll just take you." And of course, we get a pretty good reaction from the boys in the background when I say that.
For the thousands of sportsmen in Oklahoma, a bad day hunting is still better than any good day at work. They'll keep coming out, bringing the kids, and carrying on a tradition older than Oklahoma itself.
No matter what you're hunting, no matter what you're doing with a gun, whether it be sport shooting only or target shooting only or upland waterfowl, it does not matter. If you can get out there and say, "Man, that was a good time. Did you get anything?" Well, no, you're doing it right. I mean, whenever you start going on hunts and you come home mad or aggravated or in a bad mood, it's time to find something else to do. And that to me, I mean, watching the sun go down and it's starting to cool down and you don't hear any traffic, you don't hear any phones. I mean, this is no stress. This is, to me, as good as it gets.
In inexperienced or evil hands, a firearm can be a very dangerous thing indeed. No one knows that better than Jason Vick, who was shot during a carjacking.
I get to a stop sign, and I go to make the turn, and then I look and I see somebody behind me. It's like, okay, well, they've been behind me for a little bit, I think. So then I see people hop out and they're walking up to the car. So I'm like, oh, this must be somebody I know. You know, this is my neighborhood. Probably somebody I know. One, because they're walking. You know, so I'm like, okay, well, they must be somebody. So I'm waiting at the stop sign, waiting for them to come up to the car. And I see the passenger guy gets to the car first. So I'm looking to the right at the passenger guy. And that's when I look to the left, that's when the guy has a gun on. I get out the car. I'm like, all right, I get out the car and I give him the keys. And he's like, oh man, they gonna shoot me anyways. So then they end up shooting me in the back.
A promising college athlete, he lost the use of his legs, and yet Jason Bick himself remains a part of Oklahoma's gun culture.
I have guns, some guns myself. Me and my brother go to some of the gun shows down at the fairgrounds and stuff like that. I mean, guns is just a tool. You know, people get a hold of the wrong tool, can hurt people with. You know, think about if you had a guy that's got some construction equipment that ain't supposed to be in there, he could probably do some damage around the city. So I mean, guns just, to me, guns just a tool. It's the person that gets a hold of the gun that can really make mistakes and do bad stuff and hurt people with.
Bick has dreams of becoming a lawyer, helping to prosecute those who misuse shooting iron. For a VHS or DVD copy of this program, please call 800-879-6382 or send a check or money order for $22.95 to the OETA Foundation, Post Office Box 14190, Oklahoma City 73113.